Okay, hey, welcome back. This is Ian Goldsmith, and we'll be going through the continuation of the top-down networking controller tutorial. So go ahead and launch. I'm using Unreal 4.13, and quick recap of what we're doing: making a side controller, side pawn, client-side controller, client-side pawn, server-side controller, server-side character, game mode, and player state. Go ahead and make a new top-down. I'm not going to be using any starter content because we don't really need anything, and name it whatever you want. Top-down networking controller. And so for the client-side controller, we'll be going through another video to cover everything that goes in there because it's going to take a while. Client-side pawn's the cameraman, server-side controller gets all of its information from the client, sends it to the server-side character. Okay, so with the project loaded, some things need to get deleted real quick. And to add player starts, make a couple for network testing. In the content folder, go ahead and create a new folder. I'm going to call this the network controller folder because it'll be covering everything that we're going through in this tutorial. And let's start making the bases. So for the client side character controller, we'll use the player controller. So client side controller. And then a pawn for the client. So client side pawn. For the server side, we will be using an AI controller that will receive all of its information from the client side controller and send it onto the server character. So server side controller and a character to be controlled. Next, we're going to need the game mode. And the player state. Player state. I can type. Cool. Save all. Like I said multiple times, we will be doing the client-side controller in the last video, as that'll cover pretty much everything that we're doing, and this video is more or less a setup. So we'll start from right to left. Server-side controller. There shouldn't be anything in the viewport, nothing in the construction script. Everything's going in the event graph, which is nothing. All you need are two variables. The first one is a reference to the client side controller. Reference that is editable, exposed on pawn. Don't worry about replicating this value. File save. Next variable is the server side character ref, so we can track the specific character that we're given, and that needs to be editable but nothing else. Compile, save, nothing in the event graph. Server side controller is done. On to the server side character. In this, we need to set the static mesh to the mannequin. Make sure the animations are correct. For you guys, if you have your own custom models or whatever, this is what will be viewed as the player's character. So if you have your own stuff, make sure that you set it appropriately. I'm using the SK mannequin because it's the default and I don't have to add any extra stuff. And for everybody that's following along with the mannequin, make sure you set it up appropriately. Yeah, that looks good. File, save that. Class defaults, nothing in the construction script, nothing in the event graph unless you want fancy stuff, but it's not necessary for the basic controller. That looks good. The character itself needs to be replicating its movement, loading on client and replicates. If those aren't checked, make sure that you have them checked. And that is it for the class defaults for the server-side character, and that is it for the server-side character. So not much goes into there. Player state needs a reference to the server-side character. And this needs to replicate. So all the information that gets sent here from the client-side controller will be stored and shared through this player state with all the other clients that join the game on the network through the server. So with that, the player state's done. The game mode, the only thing that we're worried about here is setting the defaults. So nothing here, nothing there. You can get rid of this, and if you just want to add this to your game mode, the only thing that you need to know is that we are using our client-side controller and client-side pawn as the defaults, or as what you'll need to be referencing, calling in, or spawning in, or add everything that we're going through this tutorial into your own characters and controllers, and make sure that you have both a client and a server-side character and controller. So this needs to be the client-side controller, client-side pawn, and network play state. Save. Make sure in the world settings that it's set to your network game mode, and that those populate. And if you want to take it a step further, just to make sure without a shadow of a doubt that everything's doing it right, go up here and set that in your project settings as well, just to be warm and fuzzy that it is for sure what's going to be the default settings and being spawned into the game upon start. So the client side pawn, we need a variable for the client side controller reference, red, and that is a client side controller reference, and we don't need any of that. Save, and then in the view, the event graph empty, construction script empty, but in here we're going to have that iconic cube that I had. And I used the rust. It doesn't show up because it's not. I didn't use starter content, so just leave it white. Not a big deal. Spring arm. And camera. I set mine to 1,000 distance with -40 in the rotation, so it's looking down on the cube with a 40-degree angle, and then throw on a point light just to make sure you can see it. I like to set the light to a off yellow and does not cast shadows, and that your box does not have any collision. So no collision on the box, the light is above the box and doesn't cast any shadows. That is pretty much it for the initial setup. So in the next video we'll go into the client-side controller and flesh everything out for that. It is going to be a while, so if you have any questions, have any issues, or know of any better way of doing what we've done up to this point, or can further explain the reasons why these things are being done the way they are and have more information or explanation than I've given, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.